Hello and welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul-mouthed, spoiler-filled comic book podcast where we talk about comic books. I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl. Good evening, comrades.
Yeah. For this issue, we're going to be talking about Green Lantern, or are we going to be talking about Red Lanterns?
You mean the ones that are fueled by hate, is it?
No, the ones before that, the ones that were commies.
Oh, the true Red Lanterns.
So I'm calling this a crossover between my two favorite podcasts, Divisive Issues and Oops, I Talk Politics.
Oh, I wonder why I like those podcasts so much.
I hate those fucking shows.
Yeah, me too.
And
Fuck those goddamn-
as guests, we have all the hosts of Oops, I Talk Politics here.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Phil.
Daryl.
Yeah, hi, Sly from Divisive Issues. Hi, Sly from Let's Talk Politics. Wow, you're such a racial asshole. Yeah, you too. Fuck off, asshole.
So I suggested this story a while ago, and then, I don't know, for some reason we decided to do it now. We're going to talk about Green Lantern 207 to 210, which is part of the Steve Englehart run, who we've talked about Steve Englehart before on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Did we? I forgot.
Yeah, he did the Doctor Strange stories.
Oh,
where
yes.
he witnessed
Yes.
the biblical creation of the universe, and also when he witnessed
As well as him getting cut.
him getting cucked by Ben Franklin.
So that's perfect. Though we covered the two aspects of Sting Englehart you need to know. He has weird fetish stuff, and he has like cool like outer space like world building stuff.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
him as a writer.
Yeah, I like Steve Englehart a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his Green Lantern run, which he wrote Green Lantern for like a pretty long time. And it's a run that gets really forgotten a lot, even though it kind of built the franchise up like more than almost any writer. And I'm going to do a big like exposition dump a little bit here. So we've talked about Green Lantern before. Like we spent a lot of time on Hal Jordan.
But Hal Jordan's not the only Green Lantern, you plebs.
I know. So this is also
Ryan's
the
just fanboy.
this is also the Joe Staton run. He does all the art, and I like his art a lot.
Yeah, me too. Actually, it's very 80s, like very 80s Bronze Age, but it's very nice and clean. I like it.
This is gonna sound weird. I really like the way he draws hair.
Yeah, it's cool.
I like the way he draws Salaak.
I
So,
kind of like that too.
Speaking
Yeah.
of which, this is when the Green Lantern book for the first time shifted away from being completely Earth and human centric, even though this like area of this run is very Earth centric. But it stopped being just a Hal Jordan book, and what happened is there was a big crossover called Crisis on Infinite Earths when all the Green Lanterns were killed except for just a couple. And they restationed their headquarters to Earth, and the lineup is Salaak, who you guys mentioned, which how would you describe Salaak?
His face is like a smushed pancake, but he's a bug man or something.
Yeah, he's got 4 arms. He's like flat as a washboard, and he has hip bones that are really low. He looks so goddamn weird and ugly that I'm like so into it.
And that's what I love about it, because it looks like an alien. Like most Green Lantern aliens
Yeah.
are
Whoa,
stupid.
whoa. Wait a second, Sly. This is what you love about it? Because I remember having a conversation with you a couple years
Oh my
ago.
God.
Where... Hold on. No, this is important. Where Sly was like, I don't like alien protagonists because I only relate to people that look like me.
That's pre-racial Sly.
Yeah.
That's thing for butchering my and trying to character assassinate me, Ryan. What I said was, it's hard to relate to a person that's like a human being because his experience is gonna be different when he doesn't have a humanoid body, which is a fact. You can fuck off your
So are you telling me you can't relate to Chip the
Oh
squirrel
no, we're
man?
talking about bio-truths.
So that was Salaak. Now, Phil also mentioned another member, Chip, who is a chipmunk.
Oh yeah.
with green overalls. Jesus.
Yeah.
Goddamn, and a little bow tie. Oh my
he,
god.
He looks like a Disney cartoon character.
Yeah,
And his name is Chip CH''P.
I first hated Chip, and then I'm like, I can kind of get into Chip.
He's like very like
Cute.
he's very cutesy. He's very chipper, if you will. And yeah, he's just I like Chip, except he also at this time in the book he has like this like shaman, also chipmunk guy there as a supporting character.
Yeah, his African
really weird.
uncle or something.
Yeah, and they try to make this like serious thing. It's like he hasn't repented for he cannot see our ritual. He cannot be trusted. And he like
I love that
you
so
see this
much.
like chipmunk like shaman like lurking in the shadows, like as if I care about these fucking
And
characters.
he's sad, and it's like a very like we're close. There's a very tense moment, and the guy leaves. And it's
At
like,
one part, Chip has an inner monologue where he's like, "I haven't gotten over the death of my wife," and I'm like, "You're a chipmunk wearing overalls."
Yeah, and he always has like he has a cartoonish like big eyes and like a goofy smile with buck teeth sticking out. Like he doesn't like Kilowog looks kind of monstrous, but he emotes very well, whereas Chip never emotes. So he's always looking happy.
He's a cartoon character. He's like a Disney character in this Green Lantern comic.
So Darryl mentioned Kilowog, the third member of our team. Kilowog looks like basically like a big like bull monster. We've talked about him a little in the past. He was in the last Will and Testament of Hal Jordan. But like he just looks like a big scary kind of
like an orc or something.
Yeah, like an orc meets like a pit bull.
He was in the Green Lantern movie. He was the guy played by Michael Clark Duncan.
Oh yeah, he was. So and then we also have John Stewart and Hal Jordan. John Stewart is the Black Green Lantern from the Justice League cartoon, and Hal is the White Green Lantern from all the other episodes we've done and the movie. And
the bad movie.
Yes, the bad movie. And then we have our final member, who I want to give a little more backstory on.
No, we have John Stewart's girlfriend.
Oh,
yeah, Kat.
I forgot about Kat Matui. Kat Matui is
his fucking name.
I don't know her fucking name. I think
they're alien. Phil, respect them.
Yeah.
She's just a blue lady.
She's
pink.
Magenta.
Whatever.
She is the one who led the civil rights revolution against Sinestro and took over for him as Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because she has the pink skin like him too. Okay.
And she gets super fridge later, where a Green Lantern villain shows up and decapitates her to get back at John Stewart. So yeah, good. That doesn't happen yet though.
That's the only way I knew her. I knew John Stewart had a girlfriend that died, and I knew she had pink skin. So that's the only way. I'm like, oh, this must be her. And
yeah, Kat Matui's actually like awesome.
She
so
seems
then
kind of likable in the story.
We also have Aricia, who. When Steve Englehart's run started, before we're going to jump in here, Aricia was a little girl. She was like 12, and she had a big crush on Hal Jordan, but it was written like a girl would have a crush on like a teacher. Like it was like, he was like, you can't do this, you're too young, this is, it's whatever, it's just like a little crush, but like...
Comics have like a thing of this, because like that was the same thing of Sue Storm and Reed Richards. Like she was crushing on him as her older high school teacher friend, and then she grew up, and now Reed Richards like, now I can bone you, it's great. But
the thing that makes it super weird is Hal Jordan calls her honey the whole time when she's a kid, which like, why do that?
Which is strike one.
Then they're fighting Black Hand in the previous issue, and he
who looks kind of like Black Bolt.
Yeah,
he does bring it back. Oh my god, he does. Wow,
he does. Except Black Hand he later becomes like the Grim Reaper of the DC universe, but at the time his whole thing was he just shot laser beams and would only speak in cliches and puns.
I'm quitting the show.
It's just like learning about onomatopoeia killing Batman's girlfriend.
But the important part about Aricia is her and Hal get locked in a cave. They get like thrown in a hole in the ground and get locked in a cave. And she'd been feeling kind of sick recently, and it's because her ring was subconsciously responding to her and forcing her body to grow older. So all of a sudden, even though she's still 12 years old, her ring put her in the body of an adult. And well, the last time we see them in this cave is he says something, he calls her honey, and it zooms in her face, she says, "Don't call me honey unless you mean it." And then it cuts to our team that we just established freeing them from the cave and finding them making out.
So wait, it was like the scene where she transformed, he's like, "You're good to go."
He's like, yeah.
And by the way, he even looks like fucking Reed Richards. Like, this is a fucking like trend. The brown-haired, white streaked guy.
He doesn't have the white streaks yet.
Yeah, but he gets it later. Like, what is this fucking trope in comics?
Yeah, and in this, when we first start in the story now, we're gonna actually get into it. But I never get to talk about A's Green Lantern.
Man, we should. By the way, we should do Flash pretty soon because I want to see you talk about that and see Phil and Darryl's reaction to that shit.
Oh god, is it worse than dating an underage girl in a grown woman's
body? We should do the story where Barry gets beaten so bad by a gorilla that he has to get plastic surgery to look like a different guy.
Wow.
See, that's like crazy comics. That's not like this where it's like this is troubling. Like, especially when you're it's not another character doing it, it's Hal Jordan, the most, like, the stalwart of the Green Lanterns.
Yes.
To be fair, it wasn't as weird in the olden days. Like,
it wasn't, it really was. People were
like,
trying to follow us for a long time.
Yeah, it was like 10 years is not a big deal, and usually the girl's younger.
Also, for the record, there are still states in the United States where child marriage is, like, a legal thing.
Yeah, so like
just want to say, like, that's still a thing that happens.
This isn't a great thing.
None of us are saying that this is like we support this, but we're saying like it makes sense that there are people out there that would read this and be like, this is fine.
The thing that makes it weird though is that because like in what I'm saying, this has happened in the past. It's like they know, like, the guy knows her when she's younger, but she still grows up to be 20 or something, and he's 35.
with the aid of a magic ring.
Well, that's the thing, is like when she doesn't actually grow up, it gets weird because then it's just a kid's head being put.
That's the only problem they have with that. Jon Stewart says like, yeah, like they knew each other when you grew up, and she grew up, but she didn't actually grow up. She was like a kid like 5 minutes ago.
This is just like when that lady has sex with Tom Hanks in Big.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Spoilers! I didn't fucking see that movie, you asshole.
This is a spoiler-filled podcast.
Okay, the last thing I want to say about Mauricia is Jeff Johns tried to fix this where he retconned it where, no, on her planet, one revolution around the sun was like 30 years, so she's really ancient. It's like, okay, Guy,
She's
sure.
a 1,000-year-old dragon.
And she still acts like a little kid, though.
Yeah.
It's like that's an anime thing where it's like,
Yeah.
don't talk to me that way. I'm actually 150 years old, but she's just a little girl. Like,
Yeah, I look 10 years old forever, and I look flat as a board, but
and not just that, but I have the mannerisms and maturity of a 10-year-old. That's what.
Yeah.
That's
So-
not good. No good, as my friend Sonic would
that's
say.
no good.
The rest of the team thinks to themselves, this is super weird, but doesn't ever actually, like, say anything, and it doesn't seem to be a real
and
problem.
I feel bad because I like Englehart as a writer, and I like that he zooms in on it and he gives Jon Stewart a moment to be like, hey, this is really weird when Jon Stewart's talking to his girlfriend about it. But I also don't like that they don't confront them about any of this, being like, especially just, like, John talking to Hal, being like, do you know what you're doing, man? Like, is this okay? Is this kosher? Instead, they're just like, well, love is love, you know? It comes in a lot of different forms, including pedophilia.
Yeah, the whole issue, like the whole debate is, love can always be loving love. Like, there's not real much debate after. Like, they bring up like Hal just says like, I hope I'm not a child molester. Like he says,
He literally
says that.
And she says, "Don't worry." This is the girl says, "Don't worry. This is love. I love you, loving, love." And then that's the end of it.
Which is like, why listen to, like, not to be mean to her, but why listen to her viewpoint when she's been stricken with you from the beginning as a child?
Yeah.
Like, you need to talk to someone else about.
Okay, we have already spent way more time on this than Englehart does.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, that is.
She gets written out of the book, and this isn't the status quo for more than like a year, but it's still fucking weird. But whatever. So the issue 207 starts with Kilowog getting interviewed on TV, where they just had some big superhero fight. This is the one that Hal and Horatio were trapped underground for. And the guy is pretty upfront, where he's like, "You used to be a super suspicious alien, and now you're a world-renowned hero.
He's
How does
talking
that
to
feel?"
Kilowog.
Yeah, and Kilowog's like, I mean, it's like, whatever, we're just trying to be heroes. And then he starts complaining about a journalist, Tawny Young, who was, like, out to get them, like a J. Jonah Jameson type. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, whoa, we gotta cut that. You can't slander another journalist on TV. She's gonna sue.
You have to be impartial. Both sides just as bad, Kilowog.
Yeah.
You want to be a fucking news correspondent.
What I don't get is how, like, so are you gonna sue the Green Lantern Corps? Is that a thing? And it's like for what? For my fucking ring? You come take it.
I'm pretty sure networks are not liable for shit their correspondents.
So then I guess they're gonna sue Kilowog and take away his costume.
It's like one of those things that, like, it's so weird to have these kind of, like, Earth-like problems when you're, like, a space cops.
Well,
it's
but
like,
one of the things that I like about this is throughout this whole story, the aliens like Salaak, Chip, and Kilowog, like, very regularly say, well, like, this Earth custom's super weird. Like, I don't like this at all. But I guess, like, if Hal says that's a thing, I guess that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I get that they're trying to, conform to local customs because they are like the space cops. So, like,
and I
wherever
think
you go,
Englehart does this intentionally to showcase how dumb he thinks certain things are.
Mm-hmm.
like suing for slander.
Yeah.
They should really open up libel laws, guys.
And there is a part of the story of that Kilowog really thinks all this is stupid, and that's changes decisions later on. But I do agree with Phil, especially compared to Doctor Strange is a good example. The reason why I love Englehart's Strange run is because the best runs are always the ones that go out there and get really trippy and stuff like that. And there's some really bad runs where they have shit like one time, like the tax collectors came and tried to repossess Doctor Strange's house, and I'm like, what the fuck is this doing in this Doctor Strange comic? And like this feels kind of like in the same vein, like Steve Englehart's doing this instead of like the good stuff.
I think it can be cool when you're trying to do like a critique, like when you're throwing jabs out there about how our world operates. Like I appreciate that.
I think it'll be better if it wasn't so common in comics, because comics are so real world most of the time, and they're so rarely out there. At least back in this era, that if I didn't mean I
feel like that's really surprising, because I feel like a lot of the plots are always like some kind of alien or some kind of like more grand. Maybe it's just a lot of the stuff we've been reading, but I don't feel like a lot of the plots typically revolve around like government intervention kind of a thing.
At least with Marvel, a lot of them usually involve like local news reporters hating the person.
The Avengers spend like years with like tied up with the UN's bureaucracy. Like it is
See,
a common thing.
You say that, then I'm like, ooh, I better read some Avengers. That sounds interesting.
It works for like some characters like Spider-Man, but it feels like they're applying it to too many characters. It kind of
That's what
feels
I was
like the
just
Marvel
thinking.
Studios effect, where if you apply the same formula to many characters, it starts feeling the same. So that's why I'm not like. It might seem interesting to see that formula applied to Avengers and Doctor Strange, but if you see every character going through a bad reporter of a government,
I feel
bureaucracy,
like bad reporters are super typical in comic books, kind of a thing.
No, but the thing is, I think this like I was gonna bring up Spider-Man as the example too that I think it works for more because it's like it's also like a power scale thing and like a location thing. Like so he's from Queens and his powers are pretty strong, but like Doctor Strange exists in other dimensions and stuff, and like the Green Lanterns fly around to different galaxies, so they shouldn't care about being sued in America when they go to different universes.
Yeah. This touches a lot. I'll give this book credit because it touches a lot on this stuff, but I feel like it could have got more. Maybe the rest of the run, because Ryan read and he said this is like the most.
I don't remember the rest of the run because it hasn't been collected yet and I haven't read it in years. But
he said, this is the most down to earth one out of all of them.
Yeah, this is probably the most like grounded Green Lantern run, at least up to this point, certainly.
Okay.
What happens in this comic?
Okay, so now my favorite Green Lantern shows up, Guy Gardner. Super piece of shit meathead Guy Gardner.
So bad in this arc that we read.
He literally is.
I will say, Ryan, this is the first time I finally agree with you that Guy Gardner is one of the best Green Lanterns.
Yes,
this book has flipped me.
So
Guy Gardner for life.
Okay,
Yes.
so here's what happens. So they recap Guy's origin. So I'll get to the real quick. Basically, what he does is he shows up. He's like, I just got a Green Lantern ring. The Guardians gave me one during Crisis on Infinite Earths. I want to be the head Green Lantern because I'm a big super meathead strong guy. You guys have to run this obstacle course. And he makes like a jungle gym, and then he just like crushes them in it. So they go to beat him up, and he just runs away. So they're all looking for him. And at this
But
point,
they have a great line where Hal, they're like, "Oh, why did he run?" And Hal says, "Oh, Guy Gardner is brain damaged. He's not stupid." And I'm like,
so I'm gonna get to the history of Guy Gardner in a second. So Guy gets away. They all go looking for him, and then Guy and Hal's ex-girlfriend Carrie Limbo, who Guy calls Carrie Bimbo, shows up.
Which again speaks to the quality of Guy Gardner as a person.
Now, I want
Yeah,
to just have a
exactly.
disclaimer.
No.
Guy Gardner is my favorite Green Lantern. I am not saying he's the most just or like lawful good Green Lantern.
No,
When I
that
say
belongs
best,
to Parallax.
when I say best, I don't mean he's like the one I look up to. He's the one I most enjoy reading. So Carrie Limbo
all right, for
recaps
sure.
Guy's origin. So basically, he was Hal's like backup. So we talked about way back when how Guy Gardner was put in a coma and Jon Stewart became the backup when we did the like social issues episode like a year and a half ago.
That's
And
the
so-
W issues episode.
So what happened was when Guy got out of the hospital, he tried to use a Green Lantern that somehow Sinestro was in it. I don't know. It blew up in his face and it put him in a coma. And before this coma, he was just like a regular, boring Superman type character. And then he comes out of the coma and he has serious brain damage that makes him an asshole.
That's a thing,
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
can get, it's one of those things that always freaks me out that like any head trauma can change your personality forever.
Yes, that scared me so much. I want to watch that. That scared me so much too, Phil. Like
There was the article that written by the people that the same brain tumor that John McCain has that another guy had, and it had turned him, like his wife wrote about it turned him into such a massive like asshole.
And right about the same time, a year or two after this story, Batman punches Guy Gardner in the face so hard that it turns him into like a Silver Age like campy Gee Whiz guy. And yeah, it's great. It's really great.
He knocked him out and like gave him brain damage again. Like Guy Gardner's poor brain.
Man.
So that shows also what Batman probably does to everyone he fights.
That is true. See, like we're touching on all these issues because like when we talk about like brain damage affecting the mind, that always gets into my question of what is self? Like you're just your brain, aren't you? Like your brain responding to your surroundings. So if your brain's fucked up, what becomes to you? And now we're touching on like what Batman does to criminals, and now he's permanently changing their personality to be even worse. And we don't even know.
He made the Joker.
Yeah, he makes them by beating them senseless until they get brain damage.
But so I don't want to super stigmatize brain damage any more than we already have. But the way it's handled here is Hal says, like, he may be brain damaged, but he's not stupid, which is such a weird thing to say.
Yes, that's why I pointed out.
At this point, guys, Englehart is the one who comes up with this personality for Guy, and this is the personality still to this day, where he is a super right-wing, like, Reaganite.
I would say he's like way more libertarian. He's just like, I just want my freedoms. That's all
Yeah.
I care about.
Yeah.
Don't try and pin me down.
I'll be honest, I actually did like him in this story too.
Oh
I didn't
my
want to say
God.
it, but it's when he's like, "Fuck communism."
But here's where I disagree with Ryan, because this is not really the personality he has today. Because he got more nuanced as he
They've
went
softened it, but
Yeah, they nuanced
he's
him a lot
still
more.
like this kind of jock. I mean, he's a gym teacher. Like, that's...
But here he's more like I don't want to say Mark Millar character, more like, I don't know, Garth Ennis, Mark Millar, like an over the top like stereotype of a personality where and just him like running through all these characters and being an asshole, and it's entertaining to read.
Yeah, they've given him more nuance, but it's not like he's not this guy anymore. He's still like brash and obnoxious and like, you know, but yes, they have softened him.
It's more like the generic type of rash obnoxious, like the type of character you have in every team, like Raphael, Ninja Turtles, and stuff like that, where they're nuanced characters, but they're assholes sometimes. Here, Guy Gardner's just a plain old dick. There's nothing like about him at all.
Yeah. So, but he loves America so much. So Carrie Limbo she's a psychic. She sees that Guy is in Arizona, and he's getting attacked by guarding the universe, who are their guard. They're like their bosses, but not anymore. And he's trying to take Guy's ring away. So they all show up, and Hal basically appeals to them and saying, well, the Guardians gave Guy this ring. We think he can still be a hero. He may be a jerk, but we'll watch over him, and we think he can be better.
I want to point out this one line that speaks to, again, Englehart's writing, which is what we enjoy about a lot of this. As they're fighting, Guy says to them, honor guard, stormtroopers, and one of them says back to him, the last refuge of evil is the attribution of its own worst qualities to its enemy. Which I think we see a lot of nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kilowog is the only one that stands up and he says, no, like, this guy's, like, the worst. He's
a poozer, as Kilowog always says.
Yeah, that's Kilowog's line. And like, Kilowog, who's currently disenfranchised with American society, is like, why would you give this guy, like, the most powerful weapon in existence? Mm-hmm. But then they vote on it, and they're all like, no, we'll leave the ring to Guy. So,
because the ring, they believe the ring chose Guy for a reason, because, you know, the ring's the sex if you're worthy, and
like
so the ring they have to trust the rings, and Kilowog like, no, this is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then so back at headquarters, Kilowog's like limping around, like all sad, and a Soviet spy approaches him, and he's like, if you're sick of the way things are here, you should come back with me to the Soviet Union, where things are much better. Oh, and I want to point out, this is 86, I think. It's either 86 or 87. It's the Soviet Union is still Cold War.
And the last panel is a Russian text, and translated it says, that's next Red Lantern for all you capitalist types.
So the next issue opens up with a great cover art, honestly. It looks like a Soviet-era propaganda poster of Kilowog holding a comrade, bringing him forward, and holding up the Soviet flag.
It's really well done, by the way. It really captures that style, like this, even the sketchiness of it. Like,
when you guys were praising the art before, I was like, it just, this whole arc to me seemed kind of like whatever, like a random, like regular comic stuff. Mm-hmm. But this cover I really enjoyed.
It is very typical comics, but I think it's really well done. I think.
Yeah, that's fun. It just didn't stand out to me.
For all like the real like comic nerds, like it's like a softer John Byrne kind of style that I really really like.
Yeah, so it's a softer John Byrne thing. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I know that fucking is fucking guy.
Yeah, it looks like comics. So
yeah, it feels kind of like Kilowog. It's too complicated. It looks like poozer art.
Hal in the last issue too, by the way, I thought it was so fucking rude. He's like, don't worry, Kilowog's a simple mind. He won't be mad for long. I'm like, wow, what a fucking dismissive asshole.
Yeah, like Kilowog's like a fucking trained Green Lantern. He trained Hal Jordan from it, remember?
That was retcon.
Yeah, because Hal actually says while he's flying with Kilowog, I don't know a lot about you.
Okay, so that makes more sense. But like, still, he's what a fucking dick. Like,
it's really rude. Like, whatever.
Which is why the parallax twist later on is actually kind of neat. Like, about
yeah, we know already that he's like banging 12-year-olds and insulting all the other Green Lanterns. So
he's always a bad person all along. That's true.
Anyway, so this issue opens up in the wonderful Soviet Union, where they're doing human experiments on people. and
They're basically accelerating their evolution, and this is for the Rocket Red program.
yeah, so they're trying to make a Rocket Red, which is like they're trying to make like basically Soviet superheroes to compete with American superheroes because like must be obvious from reading, comics, they're all always from America and usually from
All
like New York.
of them.
Also, like, mutually assured destruction was the policy of both countries for this whole time. Like, if America did have superheroes, sure as fuck Russia would be doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this makes perfect sense. In fact, I wish there were more of this at the time. And
Yeah.
like, there's more of this now, but back then it was still mostly all Americans, and this is like the first time touching. And then the other country, like at this time, everyone like if superheroes existed, like even like a day later, China and Russia, everyone would be making their own superheroes.
You would
Like,
have
it'd be next
everyone
day.
making alliances against America because they look
Yeah.
at what America has. Like, they have Superman. Like, even Europe would be like, oh, this is a little... Because that means whatever American policy decides, it's like, well, who's going to stop us, like, if we want to invade this country?
That's kind of what Watchmen
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, like, that's kind of like nowadays.
Well,
Yeah, we have Superman, Trump. I think in reality, if we're making this like real politics, I think in reality the American government would be like, we have to like kill Superman because he's too strong and could take over.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Superman will be dead next day, but like people like the lower power scale, like maybe like Cyborg and Aquaman,
Yeah.
they'll be militarized.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you calling Aquaman low power scale?
Compared to Superman, yes, of course.
Do you want to have this fight? Because I actually don't care.
Yes.
I don't like Aquaman.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on.
I just wanted to get Aquaman fans mad. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, they're trying to make Rocket Red, but they keep failing because every time they go to infuse evolution into this guy or whatever they say, he fucking dies, and then they have to try again. So in the meantime, Kilowog and the Soviet spy are just floating around on this green raft, and he's trying to basically convince him that communism rules. So he's like, yeah, in America, the world's broken up into two camps, and in the West, you've seen, greed and best,
Self-interest.
may the best man win. Yeah, self-interest. So we have this poverty, and money is all that matters.
Okay, there's a line in here that's so good where Kilowog is like, well, I wanted to talk about this reporter because she's like just lying about us, but she was going to sue me. And the guy says, right, truth isn't worth money, so it's valueless in the West. And I was like, fuck, I think the communists are right in this story.
Yeah, except in Soviet Union, she would have been killed instead of
Yeah, the
suing.
thing that's like that the whole thing here is, which is kind of like my thoughts on the Soviet Union, ironically, or appropriately, I don't know what the fuck, but. Because like all this stuff talks about the Soviet Union are all great, like everyone's equal, like just because you're not the best, you don't have to starve to death. Everyone's equal. There's we're all taken care of. We're all working together to build this country, and it all sounds nice. But in reality, the Soviet Union is a fucking dictatorship where they kill dissidents and shit like
Well,
that.
that's why I feel like this like Englehart actually. This is the first time in comics I ever saw the communists not just be the bad guys.
Yeah,
just
he,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
he literally, on this raft, with this giant pig bull man, he actually gives a good, like, talk about what communism is compared to the West. And, like, it is actually convincing to Kilowog because it's convincing to the reader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all the ideal stuff. Like, ideologically speaking, what is appealing about communism? And it's like
From like, the guy even says, we say, from each according to his ability to each according to his need.
Quoting Marx.
And then he gives his bullshit of there's no poverty in our lands or inequality.
Yeah.
It's a perfect.
But I feel like it's so much more nuanced than I think I've ever seen in comic books about communism versus cap versus.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
usually it'd be like a shady guy with a big mustache. It's like, do you want to like bomb America, comrade?
It's probably more nuanced than you'll see in any media, really. Like, very, very few like any media sources outside of like actual like literary scholarships doing analysis on this stuff will actually ever like try to give the argument for communism.
I think it's because when you go to do that in media, it's like you can talk
You're a
about the
Soviet spy.
ideology.
You're a commie spy. We're gonna kill you.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like it's you can talk ideology all you want, but when it comes down to actually portraying and showing in a movie or film or something, it's like it's never going to be what this guy's saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he convinces Kilowog that your opinions were discarded because they took a democratic vote, fucking democracy, and
Democracy is shit, he said,
yeah,
basically.
basically. And he's like, "You're right. Like Guy Gardner's terrible. I want to go see your camp."
we talk about culture a few times in like the other podcasts with like politics, and it makes a lot of sense because we talk about how culture affects how your perception of what's important is. And like we grew up in America, so we think freedom is important and democracy is important. But Kilowog grew up with the Green Lantern Corps, and they had basically those blue little men being dictators for everyone. Kilowog's like, that worked. Like, if everyone voted on everything, like, we'll have this fucking asshole like Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner voting everything, and voting that we should molest little girls and shit. But, like, the Blue Guardians made the right choices because they're elites. They're the better people. They know what to do.
Yeah, actually, that was the more convincing argument to me than the communist guy on the raft, because I'm like, he portrays, like, an actual, like, convincing, a somewhat convincing argument that, you know, sometimes having these, like, philosopher king types in charge, and for people like Kilowog who are more, as he even says, is like, I'm not the brightest, you know, guy.
He's very simple, as Hal Jordan will call him.
Yeah, like, should he get as much say as, you know, everyone else? And for me, I'm like, yes, that he should, but I can understand that there's an argument to be made that
he kind of just wants to go out and do the work. That's his big thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, I want to trust someone smarter than me to be in charge, and I'll just do the
just
grunt
like the
work.
Soviet Union, the let the party decide and we just do it.
Yeah, there's appeal to that for sure.
Yeah, so he goes to the Soviet Union and he gets to meet Mikhail Gorbachev, the party secretary, aka essentially like the president.
But even when he meets Gorbachev, he does point out, like, the hypocrisy in the system, where he's like, but I don't understand. You said you had superiors, but you also said everyone is equal. How does that work?
Yeah.
And they just brush off the question.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like Ryan said, like he pokes a lot of holes in the communist ideology versus the reality, while just like innocently asking these questions. But they're always like, oh no, don't worry about it, don't worry about it.
He basically says that everyone has to defer to someone who knows better, and like he says, like, oh, I have to defer to you, Green Lantern, on space matters because you know more about space than I do. So like, the people come to me because I know more about Russia than they do. So I'm going to be a national leader. And Kilowog, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
And then Kilowog shoves his head in the toilet.
And drinks from it.
That was very funny. So what they want him for is to help with the Rocket Red project. So he goes to the lab and he's like, oh, people have been dying with this, right? Let me give it a shot.
Because apparently he was a genetic, like, scientist.
Yeah, that was like a...
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
That really blows off Hal Jordan's fucking
excuse
point.
me, look at Ben Carson. You could be a great doctor and still be a fucking moron.
Yes, but like no one's gonna be like on me and be like, I'm your friend. You're a fucking idiot. You fucking genetic scientist piece of shit. Like,
are we sure Trump hasn't said that to Carson? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Kilowog is the Ben Carson of the Green Lanterns.
but even like, I don't know, like it just calling your friend like he's not even his friend. He barely knows him. Calling him simple.
Maybe
is
he
so
meant it
fucking
in
mean.
like an endearing term. Like, he's like, oh, what a simple.
I don't think they've really, like, Hal's never talked to him about this kind of thing. I think Hal makes the judgment that, he's just an idiot. Nobody asks him about his skills until he gets to Gorbachev, and Gorbachev is like, well, you have this ring that does magic. Can you help us? And he's like, oh, I also have skills. And they're like, oh, great. From each according to their ability.
You see, this is why communism more efficiently uses resources than capitalism.
Well, no, because Kilowog would have just set up his own genetic shop in America.
But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have the business foresight to do it.
Oh, shit,
He has the skills.
Because he's a
like,
simple guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's one little aside here. This is where the Chip meeting his like African chipmunk shaman thing comes up. I don't believe he's reformed. It's just so weird because they want you to care about it. Anyway, he gets the Rocket Red program working, and they look pretty cool actually. They look like
very cool costume.
like communist power suit guys.
Yeah.
They have, you know, the red and white color scheme, the hammer and sickle on their chest.
Some nice Saiyan shoulder pads.
Yeah.
And we also should mention that the first Rocket Red, like the first one that they experiment on, he basically becomes like Kilowog's friends during this time.
Yes.
You know, so.
Yeah. And so the Green Lanterns are looking for Kilowog where he went, and they saw his battery flying to Russia, and so they go to follow it. But the Soviets see, you know, Green Lanterns flying in. They're like, I don't know what that is. Go intercept with our new, you know, Rocket Red. They end up fighting him. And Kilowog steps in actually on the side of Rocket Red, saying, "Hey, you know, Russia's pretty cool."
Meanwhile, you rest of you are posers, so fuck off.
Yeah, poozers.
Posers. He's not holding Caulfield. He's
And that's basically it. They fight, and Kat and Jon Stewart are like, "Hey, maybe we should go check out this Russia thing," because he tries to convince them, like, "Hey, you know, in this place, everyone's equal."
And I love the idea that Jon Stewart, who, when we talked about in the other episode, he was all like, the American system's fucked up and it's super racist and keeps the black man down.
Yeah.
And like now he's like, well, let's see the other way.
Yeah, which was always one of the Soviet propaganda tools. Was always like, whenever they got criticized, they're like, "But you guys have the KKK, so how about that?"
I mean, it's still a tool.
That's actually a thing I find disappointing because it's Kat that wants to go and John wants to be with Kat.
But John does talk about this later.
A little bit, but he very briefly, like basically says like, yeah, America sucks, but this is even worse. Like, I don't think they did enough with that idea that John really hates America and this is worse. Like,
well, he doesn't really hate America.
Yeah.
No, but like he hates America, the racism inherent.
He's disillusioned with it.
Yeah, he sees the evils of America, and he's like, even knowing that, what I see here is worse than that.
But it's one line. Like, I think they could have done a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, like it's disappointing.
I wanted to point out how neat it was when they come and they start fighting the Rocket Red guy. That all of the Green Lanterns are beating him up, and Kilowog comes in and he basically like yells at them for doing that. That was 6 Green Lanterns beaten up on one poos. And he says that they started the fight in Russian airspace because he was just defending his thing. Like, there's even like nuance to the scuffle of like just them fighting in the air.
Which is like what would a country do when superheroes fly into their airspace, right?
Yeah,
try to defend it.
Especially this is not really American superheroes. They're technically space superheroes. Only
but they live in America and meet with the president all the time.
Right now, maybe not.
So the next episode picks up with them meeting with the president of America.
Yes.
And they talk to Reagan, and he basically tells him that like they have like some anti-superhero order throughout the land that seemed like
it ties into this book, this story called Legends. You don't have to worry about it.
And that's actually why they meet him, because in the last issue, while Kilowog was doing his stuff, they found that they were outlawed in America, and they're saying maybe we should go to another country instead of America. But now they go to Reagan to clear up the matter and live in America still.
Yep, and Reagan even asked them about Kilowog, and he's like, "What are you gonna do about this team member that's over there?" And then Hal's like, "Well, we're the Lantern Corps, we're supposed to protect all of Earth. It doesn't matter where we are." I like that he has Reagan constantly pushing them, being like, "Well, what if he attacks the country? Like, what are you guys gonna do? Like, are you gonna protect us? Huh? Are you gonna like help America?"
I mean, you have to be shitting your pants if you're the president. And
no,
these,
I know that, but that's what I like is that they have Reagan pressuring him, being like, "You guys need to protect America, even when a Green Lantern's a communist."
Yeah. Especially when you have a chipmunk saying, those are some space Earth politics are so stupid.
And also, by the way, Hal's girlfriend is like, no, we should, like, Hal's confused. Like, I don't know, we're not technically American. No one else wants to side with this. Mm-hmm. But Hal's girlfriend's like, no, we should become American soldiers. Like, Hal, you talk about America being so great. Freedom, democracy. We're going to be Americans now. And everyone's like, we should vote on this. This is stupid. Like,
I thought she wanted to leave. She's like, before when the superhero order was on that there could be no superheroes, she's like, why don't we just leave America if they don't want us here?
Well, she says it almost in like a sarcastic, threatening way, where she's like, well, you better hope we're happy enough living in America to want to stop the Russians, Mr.
But she
President.
says something later on about her, like, hearing how great America was from
Yeah,
Hal.
she's 12. She fluctuates all the time.
Okay, so
but
that makes sense.
The thing that I really like about Reagan here is the way that Reagan is written, not the thing that I really like about Reagan, is that
Reagan's a great president. We love him.
Yeah, they still have his kind of like, where he's still like, you can tell he's a very like traditional Republican that keeps just saying things to like appease them, where he's like, oh yeah, don't worry about the outlaw thing. I've always supported men who fought for the country. Oh, and women and also aliens, as long as they have their green cards, right? Like, he keeps putting in these little like, I do think men are better, and also American citizens are better than immigrants, but like, I'm pretending that it's fine.
Yeah, it's a good way, like, if you're a liberal writer, to try and be fair, but at least throw in those little jabs, being like, of course he'd say men first. And then while this is happening, Kilowog meets with Gorbachev and Jon Stewart and Katma. They point out that they made like 7 other red rockets around.
This is when John starts calling out Gorbachev for being a hypocrite, saying, America's, because Gorbachev's like, oh, America is expansionist power, it's bad. And he's like, oh yeah, we're expansionists, how about you in Afghanistan? Yeah. And he says, oh, we are invited to aid friendly government. And he's like, a government, the people don't support you, piece of shit. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what about this guy that you've internally exiled? And he's like, well, he knew too much about our nuclear program. We couldn't have let him fall into the hands of the enemies. And he keeps like arguing in a way that he's like, see, Kilowog, we're totally open and transparent about everything.
And then and also lots of deflection too. He's like, yeah, well, how about Nicaragua though? How about that?
Yeah.
A lot of whataboutism, if you might say.
Which is so cool that he's actually bringing up, like, again, Englehart's bringing up these things where it's not just, like, Jon Stewart laying into Gorbachev. It's, like, Gorbachev's also deflecting to, like, American imperialist policies, where he's like, look at the evils of America. And then you have poor Kilowog in the middle being like, oh, he's just, like, he grew up with too much capitalist propaganda there. Like, he'll change over time, Gorbachev.
I think by the end, Gorbachev is like clearly a villain though. Like,
But I feel like he still makes like good points where he's saying all these things to John, and John says in return, I don't agree with everything they're doing.
he's not black and white. He's not black and white. But by the end of the conversation, after he yells with John, he turns to like his advisor and says, "You should kill John Stewart."
That's where it plays in well.
That's kind of what they did, though.
Yeah, the
I
KGB
know,
did do that.
I agree, but like, if you're talking about being nuanced, like that kind of tosses out any idea of this being a nuanced conversation.
No, the conversation is more.
Yeah, you can have any conversation where two people argue a point, and if one person after that says we should kill that person, it kind of becomes like, no, it wasn't nuanced at all.
Yeah.
But like, we shouldn't soften the Soviet Union when they did this thing.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying because I don't want to paint to our listeners that this is a nuanced conversation because this is just a bait and switch, red herring to set up. No, Gorbachev is actually a bad guy.
No, I don't think that's the case at all.
Immediately after he says we should kill John Stewart, I think yes.
Yeah, but I'm not saying I don't think it's a bait and switch. I think Englehart is making a concerted effort to, even though Gorbachev is the villain here, he is also pointing out that America is not the hero.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think because like John Stewart has more of the upper hand in this conversation than Gorbachev does. Like, if you really only the first issue really paints Russia as really great, and it's because there's no counter voice here.
But the last argument, the last point made in the argument is about Nicaragua. And he says, what about your government overthrowing Nicaragua? And what about the American government's growing intrusions into citizens' private lives? And this is in the 80s. This is before, like, the Patriot Act.
Yeah, and then that's what I said. Then John says, I don't agree with what they're doing, everything the government does. And then Gorbachev says, no, you don't. And you don't agree with everything we're doing. So what's the difference? And then he tells him to stay in here a bit longer. We're proud people, but we're still like people after all. Like, you'll see around to it.
I don't know. It just feels more like a whataboutism, where he's just like, "What about this? What about this, America?"
No,
like,
it is, and which I think is again true to nature. Like maybe why I'm saying nuance, I'm saying that it's very. It's like nuance for what it is. It's not like two even ideologies combating each other. It's like he actually looked into both what America does and what Russia does, and he took them very seriously in the portrayals.
I agree with that.
And then when John Stewart's talking to Kilowog right after, John Stewart calls him a big gorilla. It's like, okay.
God, everyone's so fucking terrible.
Yeah.
No wonder he's a fucking commie.
Yeah, but he's like, they're lying to you. This isn't a worker's paradise. They're not peace-loving brothers set upon by nasty capitalists. And Kilowog's like, yeah? Well, what about the bad stuff in America? Isn't that like really bad stuff? And he's like, yeah, it's bad. And this time he calls him Green Lantern instead of Big Gorilla. He says, and right now, for folks like me, it's about as bad as I've ever seen it, but it's never been as bad there as it's always been here. And this reminds me so much of the arguments that the four of us have all the time, where Phil's like,
that America's evils can ever match up to like the Soviet Union's or communist China.
And just like Sly, Kilowog says, bad by your way of thinking, but I like socialism. And then he hits John Stewart.
Okay, fuck off. I never fucking... Fuck you.
No,
I
no,
never,
I'm kidding.
You fucking apologist. I'm gonna become Guy Gardner and fight Sly as Kilowog.
If Englehart wanted to just do whataboutism, I don't think he would bring up such egregious errors as like Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And,
I
like,
want to clarify my disagreement. My disagreement is... I agree with Darryl. Darryl's point the most, that he said... This shows that Englehart read both sides, and he's trying to show the other side as an actual side. But I'm trying to, for our listeners, to not make it seem like this is both sides are just as bad. I think the book ultimately was
nuance doesn't mean both sides are just as bad, though. Yeah. It means that it's providing genuine depth.
The point is, Englehart presents it, but at the end of the Khrushchev wanting to kill John, with the big dumb poozer Kilowog being the main supporter, and it mostly being whataboutism in the argument. I think the ultimate point is that you're supposed to side with America on this issue.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
In my view of history, even though I think America did a lot of bad shit, I also view Russia as the bad guys. So.
Yeah, I'm just trying to actually portray what's on the page.
Yeah.
Readers don't misunderstand what we're saying.
But I mean, I think that this is some of the most nuanced political debate I've seen in a comic.
Even now. I agree.
Even in modern times, let alone in 1988.
Yeah, when the Soviet Union was still standing, when you didn't have when it was an actual boogeyman.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this to insult Englehart's writing. I'm just to clarify what's on the page.
Yeah. No, I think that's very fair.
So we're gonna flush everything down the toilet because Hal goes back home and Guy Gardner's hanging out on a Green Lantern cushion that he made himself, or a mattress. And then he's such an asshole because he immediately just starts hitting on Guy's underage girlfriend.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny, honestly.
It is really fucking hilarious.
And he even says, "You've changed since the first time I saw you, and all for the better, believe me."
Yeah,
baby, I think I'm in love.
And this is where he calls Carrie Limbo Carrie Bimbo.
But at least Guy is like the bad guy here, because he's not really doing anything that Hal isn't also doing. He's just like, but he's the bad guy. Hal's our hero.
It's also funny that like he's such a shithead, and at the same time he's so corny. Like he says, "Oh brother," talking about this situation, goes, "What a can of corn."
I think it's pretty accurate to conservatives. Like conservatives, they hate cursing sometimes.
Oh, that's true. They are pretty corny.
I think it's very accurate to like a Reagan night.
Yeah.
But I remember Ryan said that when in the 70s, Guy Gardner was like a cliche 70s hero.
He maybe popped up in like 3 or 4 issues. Like he would literally just pop up just to get more put in a coma.
Yeah, I've only saw a few times. He looks exactly like Guy, like Hal in those old issues. Like he has the same costume.
Yeah.
So now I'm like kind of like seeing this as a parody of Hal. Like he was like Hal's clone. Now he's like Hal's parody, where he's like upfront the fact that he's a pedophile. Like
and this is when Guy has like I think a really cool costume where it's like a Green Lantern costume, but it's like a leather jacket kind of.
Yeah, because he's like a greaser.
Yeah.
Also, this scene is what solidifies again Salaak being my favorite character, because it talks. The narrative boxes say it's only one incident, really, like Guy fighting with Hal and the rest of them. It's only one incident, really, one small situation where things seem out of control, and yet, all at once, Salaak feels the entire planet is like this now. That the Earth, like the core, is spinning towards fragmentation and disaster. And even, the cynic in him nods with the satisfaction of a worldview confirmed. The Green Lantern in him shudders.
That's maybe the best line in the whole book.
Yeah, when you see shitty things happen, you're like, I knew this would happen. Of course I knew it. Like that doesn't make it better, but you love being affirmed when things go wrong when you're a cynic.
Told you so.
And one thing I want to point out about Salaak is he goes on to become like the like bureaucratic record keeper for the core. So his like cynicism, but like maybe things could be better, kind of like, like push and like always nagging everyone that they're all pieces of shit is still a thing now, and it's the best. Salaak is awesome.
Yeah. Though, again, I want him to stay more alien than human, because I like him being so weird and noodly looking.
He's still pretty weird.
So then it cuts back to Russia, and this is when John and Katma get ambushed by the Rocket Red 7. And they basically have a big, long, extended fight where they eventually defeat them, and they knock them out, and they're unable to kill them.
The Rocket Reds defeat John and Kat.
Yep.
They lose,
and they're unable to kill them right now because the rings keep them like alive as long as they're powered.
No, I think they probably have what I interpret it as they have a force field around them that they can't pierce until the rings deactivate.
Well, that's always been a thing, that the rings have like this reserve power that protects you, so you can't be killed while you're wearing the ring until the charge runs out. It's like a fail-safe kind of thing.
They should really get better batteries then. For 24 hours isn't very long.
Yeah,
it is a good point. Like you think
they do research into that, but maybe the rings are like, this is just what we are. Like you can't.
It's one of those things. It's more for limitations of the characters, like Kryptonite or Spider-Man's web shooters running out pretty quick. It's just a limitation, so they're not immortal forever, and they never have a weakness.
And that's also part of when Green Lantern was rebooted in the late 50s. It was more like that was the sci-fi angle instead of the magic angle it had in the Golden Age. So they wanted it to be like it's powered by these super scientific batteries, and not like before it was literally a magic item.
Even though they're shaped like jewelry, still it's scientific.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but it's just it came from space aliens.
Jewelry
from,
is
like,
scientific, Sly. Look up how diamonds are made, buddy. Bucko, comrade. So then
you poozer.
Yeah, you poozer. The Rocket Red guys take them off, and they're gonna put a lethal injection into them when the batteries run out. And it cuts back to Guy talking with his girlfriend, and basically
his fortune teller girlfriend from like the previous issue. She comes back to calm him down.
Guy wants to go beat up some commies. And so his girlfriend's trying to dissuade him. It's like, you're going to attack it, aren't you? Then he says, don't say that. Don't ever try and predict what I'm going to do. And then he pushes her away, says, I was going to attack Russia, but now I'm not.
He's Trump.
I also like how he says, I'm going to go fight the commies because I'm doing Green Lantern to do it because all the other Green Lanterns are either liberals, commie sympathizers, or just straight up commies. So like, I have to be the one to do it.
Yeah. And then he calls her bimbo and flies away and says, commies, here I come.
She tries to reverse psychology him. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're so predictable to fight communists, and he's like, I'm not going to fight communists just because you said you thought I was going to. But then he's like, I actually am.
He said, ha ha ha, what a bimbo, trying to put one over on old Guy Gardner. Commies, here I come.
Guy's the best. Come on.
He's the guy that you love to hate. That's like the whole thing. It's so good.
No, I just love him.
There's some of those where I'm like, I'm okay with that, and him, I just do not. Because
No,
the people
are
you
you
love to
kidding me?
hate, you want to get comeuppance. You want to
Him
see them.
flying around, shooting down fighter jets, saying, "Come on, commies, come and get me."
That's fucking hilarious.
Do you know, literally immediately after this story, he gets put on as the Justice League's Green Lantern?
Well, they are the Justice League of America, so.
So in Russia, Kilowog's looking for where John and the rest of them went, and the communists are trying to like dissuade them, and not basically because Kilowog's ring can find where they are. They're trying to say it's like you can't go there. Like there were grounds that Kilowog can't go to, which Kilowog finds out that that's where they are.
Because with his ring can detect those other Green Lanterns.
Yeah, and he's trying, and his friend Joseph is like struggling because it's like they could be in danger, but I'm trying to like not get Kilowog in trouble because he knows.
Yeah, I don't want to go against my country, so I can't tell Kilowog, like help Kilowog, free his friends. But I'm sure the leaders have the reasons for doing this.
Yep, and then while this is happening, that's when Guy's attacking a bunch of Russian air fighters. And Guy runs in to tell Gorbachev that they're being attacked, and Gorbachev doesn't know if it's Americans or not because it's just a Green Lantern user.
So they're both like, we have to launch the nukes.
They increase, their alerts to like orange, and because they increase their alerts to orange, it charges up Washington to increase their alerts to orange. And one of my favorite things is it shows like a bunch of different cuts of people getting the information that the Russians are going to launch the nukes, and it shows a general, and the general goes, "At last."
Yeah, that's John Bolton, like almost to a T.
Yeah.
He's got a big stupid mustache and everything.
And meanwhile, while all the nukes are getting launched, while Guy Gardner's fighting all the fucking commies, Kilowog's coming to fight Guy Gardner. And the last panel is Chip Big, like, I'm sure glad things are calm now. I think it's the time to relax.
And he calls Salaak Picklehead.
I love this because like it's so quickly showcases how the mutually assured destruction would work because Guy totally on his own escalates it, and in one page they go from orange to red to about to launch nuclear weapons.
Yep.
This is why in real life, like the Civil War event, like the people who want to register and control superheroes are right.
Yeah.
You can't have a fucking guy with a magic ring that can do whatever
This is why
he wants.
I hate Guy Gardner. It's because he's so dumb and he has so much power and he uses it so recklessly. Like always
That's
fighting
why
with
it's
his friends.
hilarious, Darryl.
Fly
That's why he's a good foil.
You think
Yeah.
World War III's hilarious, Sly?
No, but this is what happens when you have weapons that aren't registered and
Yeah,
kept in
and this
check.
is why we need to kill Guy Gardner.
Supposed to
they should
illustrate
have
how
killed
over
Guy.
top it is. Like Guy Gardner's the ultimate like meathead, like idiot. Like he's of course he would be the one to trigger this, and like everyone in the world's gonna die because of fucking Guy Gardner.
Yeah,
It's
and I
fucking
want him to
hilarious.
lose his Green Lantern ring for almost triggering.
Well, you know what? We made Guy Gardner president in
Yes,
2016.
come on, Darryl. Like you gotta get off the program. This is
Yeah,
our
and I
world.
want him. Well, I can't say that. I want him arrested.
I want his Green Lantern ring taken away too.
Yeah,
Fuck
I want
him.
his power. Just put him on an island somewhere.
So now, speaking of which, the next issue, I just want to talk about how fucking beautiful the cover is, because it's Guy Gardner standing with his with his arms crossed in front of a Boy Scout waving an American flag with like little kids, a little Jewish boy and a little black girl and a white family waving at him in front of a church while a crowd of people cheer, and it says Green Lantern making the world safe for democracy.
Yeah,
It's
the
so
arc
perfect.
ends with some good old American propaganda.
Well, this is that's like the counter. And keep in mind, Kilowog is our hero of the arc, and Guy is the villain of the arc. So I think Englehart's politics are pretty up close here.
And but it's kind of interesting because they kind of flip and change. Because on the fundamental level, Guy Gardner is like fucking shit up, but like he does do a lot of good things by being reckless because he saves.
Yeah, he ends up saving John and Katma, which is like that's an interesting like twist to it.
And Guy's the kind of person that, in a micro sense, does like when he sees something that's like very objectively wrong, where like if he sees like somebody getting mugged, he'll save them because he is a hero. I use the term loosely, but he does the right thing in like a very simple way. But when it's like something macro like geopolitics, he doesn't understand at all, and he's like, "Oh, commies are the bad guys. Let's go kill."
He's
them."
kind of like George W. Bush. He's like, I gotta go. Stop
Right.
terror.
It's because like he thinks like since I know on a small scale, like you said, what is right, then I can go and force people to be right, and this country is not doing the right thing, so I will just do the simple thing of blowing them up.
It's the same reason why, like, very traditional conservatives are like, well, I am, like, nice to my kids, so therefore, like, racism's not real. Or, like, however they justify their macro shitty beliefs, because micro, they, like, donate to charity.
I also really like that Guy keeps calling himself the one true lantern, where it's just like, the rest of you guys are idiots, but, like, I'm actually a good, the one true lantern.
I'm the real president. I got the 5 vote.
Yeah, and like, I mean, Trump always says, like, I'm the one guy that can fix everything.
Yeah.
And at one point, Guy even says, believe me, I know what's right for you. And I'm like, Jesus.
But so the issue opens up with Kilowog and Guy Gardner fighting. The Rocket Reds show up and try to back up Kilowog, but Kilowog's like, no, this is my fight. And one thing I find funny about this entire arc is Guy Gardner really is the best Green Lantern. He fucking kicks most of Green Lantern's asses before he runs away, and now he fucking kicks Kilowog's asses along with the Rocket Red's asses. Like, he traps him underground while he goes to fly off to destroy Russia.
He's got a lot of will.
He does have a lot of will. And they even say that. They're like, Jesus Christ, he's crushing all of us, like in the jungle gym.
Yeah, and meanwhile, everyone's playing tennis back at the Green Lantern headquarters, and like, wow, we're sure glad Guy Gardner didn't go fight Russia, and then they get a phone call saying Guy Gardner went to go fight Russia, and Hal's like, what the fuck?
And one thing I want to point out, all the art, whenever it cuts back to the Russian or the American government, it's all in, like, bright red, like, the
and
Russian...
black, a lot of black and shadows.
And it's, like, it's very, like, if you see, like, a war movie when they're, like, in the submarine and everything's all, like, red and black, and it, like, it's just a really cool effect.
I like that they have the communists, like, shadowed in red, and then the Americans shadowed in orange, where it's both red, but the communists are more red.
That.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
They're more red. So Guy Gardner when he after he beats the Rocket Reds, he interrogates them to find out where Kat and John are.
Oh, and also all of the Green Lanterns, including Chip and Salaak, in tennis shorts. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when Chip says nuts when he misses a shot. Fucking
well, it's
stupid.
better than when the communists pick up the phone. They go, oh, Lenin's bones.
Yeah, that is pretty great.
So Guy saves Kat and John, but they're still unconscious. So Guy's like, oh, now we got to break out of here, fight all of Mother Russia while carrying these two unconscious people. This is gonna be fun, which is why Guy Gardner's the best Green Lantern.
And he has a shit-eating grin.
I do like how he's beating the shit out of them.
No, I cannot let you guys get away with this because I feel like we flipped it where it's like now everyone else is defending a Millar character and I'm not. I'm like, you guys, this is a bad
because
character.
He's not the one we're supposed to be rooting for. He's the foil.
It's not mean-spirited. But Millar's always mean-spirited with this
Yeah,
stuff.
like
That's
you're
why...
saying Nemesis is better than him because Nemesis is
no,
crazier?
They're
No,
both
because Guy
bad,
is like...
But Nemesis lives in an unjust world where he can be like, whatever, this world's terrible.
But that makes it better. That makes it better, though, because there are ways to keep Guy under control. The other Green Lanterns. Nemesis, there's nothing that can keep Nemesis under control. But it's a mean-spirited comic because Nemesis is never able to come upins, while Guy Gardner has to
doesn't get his comeuppance in this comic either, though. The only one that really does is Kilowog.
He has to keep up his messes at least. He has at least... There's at least some forces in control. Like, this is like if Trump got arrested by, not arrested by Mueller, but like, this is like everyone says it's John Kelly to Trump. Yeah, Trump sucks, but at least it's John Kelly to make him not start World War III. That's kind of like the best way you can see the world and this comic, I guess.
When we started the show, I dreamed of a day where I could hear Phil and Darryl arguing about if Guy Gardner's a good Green Lantern. I'm so happy.
Come on, he says, as he's beating them up, he's like, even wimp lanterns are worth more than commies.
That's awesome. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm leaving this show.
This is the episode that ends it all.
Yeah. Also, great too is when Kilowog's like, I gotta go talk to Gorbachev because something's wrong. Like, he told me everything was gonna be okay, and they're like, you can't. And he's like, I'm a Green Lantern. And then Gorbachev just like launched the missiles.
Yeah, he's like, he's trying to come in even though I told him not to. He must be an American spy. This American is fed up. We're going to kill him.
It's because as they saw the Green Lanterns flying towards Russia, they couldn't tell if they were missiles or not because they're just flying straight at them. So they're like, if it's last case scenario, like we have to launch back.
Yeah.
And they launched like 1 million missiles.
Yeah. And I want to give another shout out to my boy Salaak here, in that all these missiles are coming up, and he goes, there are too many of them. And they're like, we have to do something. We have to stop this because, like, our mission is to safeguard Earth. And, well, Hal Jordan's telling that. Salaak has his arms crossed because he's like, no way. and then he helps because guess what? He's a good guy, not like Guy Gardner.
but better than that, Hal says, you have to stop it because if we don't, everything's going to be a mushroom-shaped cloud. And Salaak says, you're right, that sounds too beautiful to allow.
Yeah, who's the real sociopath, Darryl?
He helps them.
Guy would help too.
Guy starts this. Guy got these missiles
Not on purpose.
launched.
Not on purpose.
But still, he's ignorant enough that he created too much danger.
But even this, Englehart has a political angle in the scene because Hal's like, Aricia, help me. We have to put up a shield. And she's like, to block the missiles? And he's like, no, we can get the missiles one by one, but we have to block a shield to block Western surveillance because if America sees
really
that
like
they've
that.
launched a nuke, they will nuke the hell out of Russia.
Yep.
And like, that's so, he's like, we have to stop, our main goal is to stop retaliation, not the missiles. And like, that's so good. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, so Kilowog was there when the Rocket Red spilled the beans about what happened to Kat and John to Guy. So Kilowog now wants to confront Gorbachev, and he's like manhandling Gorbachev, and the first Rocket Red, Joseph.
This is by the way, best part of the comic right here.
Yes.
Yeah, he unhand dear leader, and he goes to start fighting Kilowog, and basically it's this brawl where Kilowog's beating the shit out of Joseph.
And he keeps saying, like, stop, this isn't right. And they both keep, like, struggling, because Joseph's like, I'm a Russian, I can't desert the motherland. And they're, like, actually having a, like, crisis of conscience for both of them.
Yeah, and he even Joseph even talks to Gorbachev, and he's like, he's a good guy, Kilowog. And he's like, we're at war. You have to fight him.
They're fighting, and Kilowog keeps begging Joseph to stop fighting him, and Joseph like loses his helmet, and like he's getting the shit beat out of him, he's bleeding, and he's like, please stop fighting. And he's like, no, I am a Russian, I will not desert the motherland, never. And finally Kilowog takes him down, and I was he just taken out, or is it?
No, he's fucking dead.
Oh yeah,
he's
dead.
Yeah,
I think
It's because his helmet comes off, and then Kilowog like slams his head into the concrete.
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm assuming if Ryan knows better than me. The Rocket Red in the Justice League later on, that's a different one, right?
Yes, he dies here. This character's only in 3 issues.
This whole fight was just really like sad to me. Like the whole time they're struggling, and
Yeah, so this is why Guy's the best, because he punctuates a sad moment where Kilowog's standing over his dead friend's body.
Well, not only that, but all of them do, because we have the top of the panel, it's a full page, like, not a full page spread, but it's a full page width, and that's when he throws his head into the concrete, and there's a totally white background, and it's, like, really powerful.
Yeah, and as soon as that happens, immediately after, Guy comes up and says, way to go, Lantern, I guess I made you see the light about these commies. So,
and then he's like, you should have seen what I had to do to get to John and Katma, and Hal's like, there's nothing that it couldn't have been as worse as what we did keeping World War III, and they're all just like, we're superheroes, mission successful, no problems.
yeah,
and Kilowog's the whole time ignoring them, going over to Joseph's body and leaning over.
He's
it.
crying over his corpse. That's how it ends.
He's crying over his dead body.
Yeah.
And last line is Hal saying, there's one quote that can't be repeated too often, war is hell.
Next party time.
And I read the next issue because I was like, what the heck? Where does it go from here? And it's that Guy Gardner gets them all drunk, like, because they're celebrating New Year's, and then Kilowog starts punching himself in the head because his friend is dead. Oh, and then what a piece of shit Guy Gardner is.
And that's why he's the best. All right, so question of the day: would you read more of this?
I mean, everybody knows where I stand. I love Englehart's Green
Well,
Lantern.
I did, so I guess that's the answer.
I would.
Me too. This is awesome. I want more Guy Gardner like this.
Ugh.
And all the Englehart's run up to this point is all collected. There's like 5 trades, so it's it's good stuff. So yeah, cool. Englehart's the best. He's the best Bronze Age writer. He's just so good.
Yeah, I might agree with that.
It's really interesting seeing like the nuance that he takes some stuff with, and the way that he can write very elegantly about issues, and then he just has these weird blind spots where you just kind of have to like turn a blind eye to it, where you're like, oh, he aged up this girl, or oh, a founding father had sex with a superhero's girlfriend. You're just like, okay. Like,
Yeah, that's the fetish stuff. You just gotta get used to that.
yeah.
This is one of those things that I think the Bronze Age has a lot of, is like writers are starting to introduce a lot of really cool nuanced politics, but they're still like not 100% hitting it as like a mature story yet. There's still like these weird
You
things
still have
that
Chip.
kinda, like, yeah, you still have Chip. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hey, that kind of makes it like, that's kind of why I love this era in a lot of ways, because it's funny to see Chip show up being like, I love everything's going great while World War III is about to start. I love that kind of weird.
Like, I like it too, but it's one of those things that, like, I feel like if we did this book earlier in the show, you guys probably wouldn't have liked it as much. 'Cause
Yeah,
I feel
and-
like they're yeah.
See, I don't like that, because I'm like, this is so cool and it has so many good moments, and then you have like Chip saying nuts and calling Salaak pickle brain, where I'm like, Like for me, this would be like a hard thing to recommend to a non-comic reader because of that stuff.
It is, yeah.
Despite us saying this is one of the most politically like careful kind of comics that we've read.
That's one of the things about me is it's hard when I.
It's hard being sly. I agree.
It's hard being, but like when I argue with Ryan a lot about which comics are good or not, Ryan is always more positive than me. And I would criticize comics a lot more for stuff like that, like Chip showing up in the story and stuff like that. And generally, that's the main reason, because this becomes hard to recommend to the readers.
Yeah.
But on a personal level, I do get a kick out of it.
So speaking of communism, everyone should check out the Comrade Radio Network, right? Everything is super political, and it's not just us, and it's just a catchy name. But yeah, you should check out the other shows of the Comrade Radio Network. Tales from the Static is back from their season break. I know I mentioned either last episode or the one before it that they had a bonus, but Ryan has officially started season 3. 2?
But you're Ryan.
The other Ryan. B. Ryan. I'm A. Ryan, the Aryan man.
I'm Ryan.
yeah. And so everyone should check that out and all the other shows, the Comrade Radio Network, ComradeRadio.com, and the Facebook group. And if I want to hear everybody talk about Chip, and I want to hear everybody else argue about Guy Gardner, because I actually got into a fight with a listener about Guy Gardner on Twitter, but I want everyone to join our Discord, links in the show notes, and our Facebook group, and come fight us, because Guy Gardner's the best.
No.
Yeah, fight us.
Yeah.
No. It is impossible for us to simultaneously hold the ideas of I hate Mark Millar and I like Guy Gardner. That is my stance.
He's not a Mark Millar character.
Well, humans are contradictory, crazy beings, so we don't have to make any sense to you, Darryl.
We contain multitudes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you all for listening to Divisive Issues. I've not been a child molester.
I've been Carrie Bimbo.
I've been living in a utopia where everyone is equal and there's no poverty.
I've been a poozer.
Stay in continuity.